Nobody talks about this button. It sits right on your steering wheel, usually just below your thumb, and most Ford owners press it maybe twice a year by accident. I'm talking about the OK button, sometimes labeled Reset, right there in the middle of your steering wheel controls. I've been wrenching on Fords for over 15 years, and I can tell you this single button unlocks more hidden functionality than almost anything else in the entire truck. Oil life resets, hidden diagnostic menus, driver assistance customization, even features that let you completely reprogram how your vehicle behaves. Most owners use it once to clear a warning message and never touch it again. Today I'm showing you everything this button actually does, and by the end of this video you'll understand why I consider it the single most underused control in any modern Ford. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most basic function, because even this gets ignored by most owners. When a warning message pops up on your instrument cluster, low tire pressure, oil change due, door ajar, whatever it might be, most people just glance at it and keep driving, letting the message clear itself eventually. But that OK button does more than dismiss the message. Press it while a warning is displayed and you get additional detail. For tire pressure warnings, it will show you the exact PSI reading for each individual tire, not just a generic warning light. For oil life warnings, pressing OK shows you the exact percentage remaining rather than just a vague low oil life message. This matters because it lets you make an informed decision about whether you need service today or whether you have another 1,000 miles of cushion. Most owners never press through these messages to see the actual data underneath. They just clear the warning and move on, missing information that is sitting right there waiting to be read. Now here's where it gets more useful. That same OK button controls your entire information display cycling system, and most owners only scroll through 2 or 3 screens when there are actually dozens available. On your steering wheel, you have scroll buttons, usually arrows pointing up and down, positioned near the OK button. Press those to cycle through different display screens on your instrument cluster, and then press OK to select or confirm whatever screen you are looking at. Most owners cycle through the basics, average fuel economy, distance to empty, maybe the compass heading, and stop there. But keep scrolling and you will find screens most people never discover. There is a screen showing your instant fuel economy in real time, updating every second based on your current throttle input. This is incredibly useful for learning how your driving habits affect mileage. Watch that number while you accelerate gently versus aggressively, and you will immediately understand where your fuel is going. There is another screen showing engine oil temperature, separate from coolant temperature, which most owners do not even know their vehicle tracks. This matters because oil temperature tells you when your engine has actually reached full operating temperature, which takes longer than coolant warming up, especially in cold weather. There is a transmission fluid temperature screen on many models too, which is critical information if you are towing. If that number climbs into the danger zone, you know immediately to back off or switch drive modes before you cause expensive damage. Keep scrolling further and you will find a digital compass with elevation reading on some models. There is a tire pressure screen showing all 4 tires simultaneously with exact PSI numbers rather than just a warning light. There is often a battery voltage screen showing your electrical system health in real time, which is genuinely useful for diagnosing electrical problems before they strand you somewhere. Most owners never scroll past the first few screens because nobody ever showed them the scroll wheel does anything beyond basic trip information. Spend 5 minutes cycling through every available screen on your specific model, and you will be surprised how much information Ford is already collecting and displaying, information you have been ignoring simply because you never scrolled far enough. This next function is the one that genuinely changes everything for a lot of owners, and it's the reason I built this entire video around this one button. Press and hold the OK button while your vehicle is off, or in some cases while it's in accessory mode, and you access a settings menu that lets you customize dozens of vehicle behaviors most owners assume are fixed and unchangeable. This isn't the same as the deep engineering menu that requires a complicated button sequence. This is a consumer-accessible settings menu that Ford deliberately built for owners, but almost nobody finds it because it's not labeled anywhere obvious. Here's how you get in. With your vehicle off, or with the ignition and accessory position, depending on your model year, press and hold the OK button on your steering wheel for about 3 seconds. A settings menu appears on your instrument cluster. Use the scroll wheel to move through categories, things like vehicle settings, driver assist settings, and lighting settings. Press OK again to enter whichever category you want to adjust. Inside vehicle settings, you'll find options most owners have no idea exist. There's a setting for automatic door locking that activates once your vehicle reaches a certain speed, usually around 15 miles per hour. Some owners find this annoying if they're constantly getting in and out at low speeds, and you can disable it entirely right here. There's a setting for automatic door unlocking that triggers the moment you shift into park, so you don't have to press the unlock button every single time you arrive somewhere. Most owners manually unlock every time because they never knew this could be automated. There's a setting that controls whether your exterior mirrors automatically fold in when you lock the vehicle, which is incredibly useful if you park in tight garages or narrow spaces where mirrors are vulnerable to getting knocked. You can turn this on even if it wasn't active from the factory, or turn it off if you find it annoying. Inside the driver assist settings, this is where things get really valuable for a lot of owners. You can adjust the sensitivity of your lane keeping assist system from a gentle nudge to a more aggressive correction, or turn it off entirely if you find it fighting your steering inputs on curvy roads. You can adjust the following distance default for your adaptive cruise control. So instead of resetting it every single drive, your preferred following distance becomes the default every time you start the vehicle. You can adjust the sensitivity of forward collision warning, moving the alert timing earlier or later depending on your preference and driving style. A lot of owners find the default forward collision warning triggers too early on curvy roads or in stop-and-go traffic, creating false alarms that make them want to disable the system entirely. Instead of disabling it completely and losing the safety benefit, you can adjust the sensitivity right here to reduce false alarms while keeping the protection active. Inside lighting settings, you can adjust how long your interior lights stay on after you exit the vehicle, extending it if you frequently need extra time getting kids or cargo situated, or shortening it if you find it draining your battery during short trips. You can adjust whether your headlights automatically turn on with your windshield wipers, a genuinely useful safety feature during rain that most owners never realize is adjustable. You can adjust the brightness of your dashboard lighting independently for day and night conditions, creating a dimmer setting for nighttime driving that reduces eye strain without you having to constantly adjust it manually every time the sun goes down. The reason this settings menu matters so much is because Ford builds these vehicles for the widest possible customer base, which means every default setting is a compromise. The factory settings aren't wrong, but they're not tailored to you specifically. Someone who drives mostly highway miles wants different adaptive cruise settings than someone who drives mostly city traffic. Someone who parks in a tight downtown garage wants different mirror folding behavior than someone with a wide open driveway. This OK button settings menu is how you actually make the truck behave the way you specifically want it to behave, instead of just accepting whatever came programmed from the factory. Most owners drive their entire ownership experience without ever touching a single one of these settings, essentially driving a vehicle calibrated for an imaginary average driver instead of calibrated for themselves. If you're finding this useful, go ahead and hit that like button right now and make sure you're subscribed, because I'm about to show you how this same button connects to your maintenance history and can actually save you money at your next service appointment. Here's a function almost nobody knows about. That OK button also gives you access to your vehicle's maintenance and diagnostic history. Right there on the instrument cluster, no dealership visit required. Scroll to the Vehicle Health category within the Settings menu and press OK. You'll see a summary of recent diagnostic trouble codes the vehicle has logged, even ones that didn't trigger a check engine light. Sometimes your vehicle's computer detects a minor issue, logs it internally, and the problem resolves itself before it becomes serious enough to illuminate a warning light. Most owners never know these logged codes exist because nothing ever visibly warned them. But checking this menu periodically lets you catch developing problems early before they turn into expensive repairs. If you see the same code logging repeatedly, even without a check engine light, that's worth mentioning to your mechanic at your next scheduled service, potentially catching a sensor issue or electrical gremlin before it strands you somewhere inconvenient. This same health menu shows you battery health information on many models, giving you a general readout of your battery's condition rather than waiting for it to fail completely and leave you stranded in a parking lot. Batteries rarely fail with warning. They work fine one day and refuse to start the engine the next. Having access to this health data lets you proactively replace a weakening battery before it strands you, rather than reactively dealing with a dead vehicle at the worst possible moment. Now let us talk about oil life resets, because this is a function almost every owner eventually needs, but most people either take it to the dealership unnecessarily or fumble through it without understanding what they are actually doing. After you get an oil change, whether at a dealership, quick lube shop, or doing it yourself in your driveway, your vehicle does not automatically know the oil was changed. It is still counting down based on the previous oil's remaining life unless you manually reset it. Here's exactly how the OK button handles this. With your vehicle in accessory mode or running, press the menu button to access vehicle settings, scroll using the wheel until you find oil life or maintenance, and press OK to select it. You will see an option to reset oil life. Press and hold OK for about 3 seconds until the percentage resets to 100%. That is it. The entire process takes maybe 10 seconds, but plenty of owners either do not know it exists and drive around with an inaccurate warning light, or they pay a shop an unnecessary fee just to reset this counter for them. Learning this one function alone saves you either annoyance or money, sometimes both, for the entire time you own the vehicle. There's another function tied to this same button that most owners genuinely never discover, and it involves MyKey, Ford's system for creating restricted driver profiles, typically used for teenage drivers or anyone you want to limit certain vehicle capabilities for. Setting up and modifying MyKey profiles happens through this same menu system, accessed initially through your admin key and then navigated using the OK button and scroll wheel. Inside MyKey settings, you can cap the maximum speed the vehicle will allow, often capping it around 65 to 80 miles per hour, depending on your preference. You can limit the maximum audio volume, preventing a new driver from blasting music loud enough to be a dangerous distraction. You can set the vehicle to sound persistent audible warnings if the driver exceeds certain speed thresholds you define, even if they're still below the hard speed cap. You can force traction control to stay permanently on, preventing a less experienced driver from disabling stability systems that could otherwise be turned off. You can even set early low fuel warnings, so instead of the standard warning triggering with the usual amount of fuel remaining, it triggers earlier, giving a new driver more buffer before they risk running completely empty somewhere unfamiliar. Every single one of these adjustments happens by scrolling and pressing that same OK button, yet most parents who buy their teenager a Ford never discover this system exists, missing out on genuinely valuable safety customization that Ford built specifically for exactly this situation. One more function worth mentioning because it surprises almost everyone who learns about it. That OK button also controls access to your compass calibration and units preferences, letting you switch between miles and kilometers, Fahrenheit and Celsius, and adjust how your fuel economy displays, either as miles per gallon or gallons per 100 miles, which some owners find more intuitive for tracking real-world fuel costs. If you've ever imported a vehicle, travel frequently across the Canadian border, or simply prefer metric measurements, this is exactly where you make that change, and it takes less than a minute once you know where to look. What strikes me every time I show a customer this button is the reaction. People have owned their trucks for years, sometimes owned multiple Fords across a decade or more, and they had absolutely no idea this single button controlled this much functionality. They assumed it was just for clearing warning messages, maybe resetting the trip odometer, and nothing more. But Ford built an entire customization ecosystem behind this one steering wheel control, and because there's no dedicated menu button labeled settings sitting prominently on the dashboard, most owners simply never find their way in. The button sits there, unlabeled beyond a simple OK, doing exactly what its name suggests on the surface, while hiding this much deeper functionality just underneath. If you own a Ford, take 5 minutes this week and actually explore this menu system yourself. Press and hold that OK button, scroll through every category, and see what's already customized incorrectly for how you actually drive. You might find your mirrors aren't folding when you park in that tight garage. You might find your adaptive cruise following distance resets every single drive because you never set a default. You might discover diagnostic codes logged months ago that nobody ever told you about. This single button connects to more of your vehicle's behavior than almost any other control Ford includes. And the fact that it looks so unassuming is exactly why most owners drive right past it for the entire time they own their truck. If this video helped you discover something new about your own Ford, go ahead and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and drop a comment telling me what you found when you explored your own settings menu. And if you know another Ford owner who's never touched this button beyond clearing a warning message, share this video with them. Most people are driving vehicles with far more capability sitting right under their thumb than they ever realized. I'll see you in the next one.